Hey guys, Pandelis here from Hodges Real Estate. Coming to you from my favourite cafe here, Cafe in Demand. Make the best coffee in Cheltenham. Family run business, been open for years. So yeah, look, I thought I'd do something a little bit different today. It was a quieter weekend. We only did have the one result as reported by the REIV because it was the Labor Day long weekend. That result was one at 4 Centre Dandenong Road. It was a 2-bedroom unit. It obviously did go to auction on Saturday and sold for $437,500. But just having a little bit more time on my hands, I've had a few of my clients email me and on the phone, having conversations currently. And look, it's important in a changing market like this that we keep you guys informed, especially if you are in the process of buying or selling. And for anyone that is keeping on the market, I think it's very, keeping an eye on the market, I think it's very important that they have that information on hand. So look, my first question here that I had from Michael Vass, very broad question, but he was very concerned, I guess, in a sense, and wanted to know where the market was currently at. Because there's so much you hear on the radio, so much you hear on the news. It's very hard to read the play, and I guess it's important that someone like me can assess the situation. Obviously being in line with the market and selling and speaking to buyers and sellers on a daily basis. It's an interesting one. I mean, in comparison to the end of last year, I mean, we are seeing clearance rates that are a little bit down from what they have been the last 2 years. You know, they're sitting around that 55%, but towards the end of last year, they were in the 40s, so there is an improvement there. But, you know, there are still people buying and there's still people selling. And I guess essentially, we're in a market where, you know, people are motivated to sell and buy. We just have to, as agents and vendors, you have to be mindful of the conditions because obviously, you know, a good, we'll say 2 years ago, the auction process was very streamlined and you would go to auction, you expect everything to sell on the day. But, you know, we are seeing buyers obviously putting their best foot forward prior to auction, and even if it doesn't sell during the auction process, we're still selling properties sell on the day or a week later. So it's becoming much of a negotiation. So from what I'm seeing and firsthand in Cheltenham, you know, every property that I have auctioned this year has sold. I look at the one that I auctioned 2 weeks ago in Delia Street, you know, and we had a very successful campaign there, 92 groups come through, and we still had 5 bidders. So that was a good campaign. It did sell under the hammer. And then we had one in Axleton Street. You would have remembered number 1111 Axleton Street, which went to auction. We still had registered buyers. A very different market, first home buyers market. But look, I had the registered buyers, but a lot of them didn't want to put their hand up. We ended up passing the property in, and it became a negotiation after the auction, and we did see the property sell. So just be mindful of the current conditions, the buyers, and how that's impacted on them and their confidence. But in short, look, it is still a market where vendors are selling and buyers are buying. It's just about being realistic with price and that motivation. So our next question there is from Georgie Werner. She's asking and putting her place on the market currently whether she should go private sale or auction. Very good question there. Look, there are pros and cons for both of those. I guess essentially it does depend on the individual. And look, traditionally Cheltenham has been a very auction orientated area. Look, your private sale obviously keeps it very flexible for buyers. They can put in a subject to building inspection or a subject to finance clause. At the same time, you know, it does give them that flexibility to get their finances in a bit of a time frame. And it can be important in a market like this as well, where it is taking a little bit longer. But we still are seeing a very dominant auction process right as we speak, with people going to auction. And again, that is an unconditional sale. And don't forget, with an auction, there is the advantage that you can sell before the auction. If someone does put their best foot forward prior to the auction, there's no reason why you can't accept that offer. Been a huge benefit. The auction process does limit it to a time frame. I mean, obviously it gives you an end date, you know, where buyers and sellers have to be prepared for that day if it doesn't sell before. Whereas, you know, the private sale sometimes can take a little bit longer, but there's no reason why it won't sell in the first week, or it might take a little bit longer into, you know, extending into that 30 days plus. So look, it does depend on your situation, what you're more comfortable with. There are benefits for both. So look, happy to speak about either depending on the current situation in this current market. So the next question was posed by Phil Edwards, and he's asking whether or not he should style his house. Now, it is obviously a very interesting question, and it does depend on the property. I mean, in summary, at the least, I'd say that you speak to a consultant, which is something that we always advise. We do have our Hodges consultants that you do have an hour consultation. We speak to them and they best advise as to what you can do with the home. You have to keep in mind the target audience, because that is very important. I mean, I'm very keen and very big on presentation when a property does go on the market. So look, and as silly as it sounds, there is a very different perspective of how you live in a house as to how you sell a house. And you do have to make it as appealing as possible when you are going on the market, and obviously for that buyer demographic that is coming through the house. So look, I would advise that you do speak to one of our consultants. They will tell you as to what you can do with your current property, obviously narrowing down who your target audience is. But we have seen some fantastic results from purely just styling a home, and it is something that you definitely should be considering when you are going on the market, because it can be the difference of tens of thousands of dollars when it does come to the end result. So thank you guys, thanks for joining me today. I'd like to do a bit more of this. Obviously people send me questions through, because obviously I think it benefits everyone and all the viewers that are watching out there. So feel free to send me a question when you get this email, even on Facebook. Feel free to definitely send me a private message or even texting me. So thank you for joining me today, and look forward to seeing you all next week.